Welcome to the Party Trick podcast, where we inspire and empower you to elevate every day.
Today, I speak with Kevlyn from Festive Gal. Stay tuned as we talk about some of her party crowns, her pivot from teacher into the party world, and she's got some good stories for you. Enjoy.
Kevlyn, thank you so much for being on today. I can't wait to chat with you and hear more about Festive Gal and talk all things parties.
I'm so excited to be here and just chat with another party girl.
It's going to be so fun. So, okay, we met through a mutual friend who was like, you guys need to connect. And I'd seen your work and we're both here in Colorado. But I would love to have you share with our listeners who are all over the place a little bit more. Give us your story. How did you come into this industry? What was the origin behind Festive Gal? Tell me more.
Okay, so Festive Gal really comes from a place in my heart of a love for being festive.
I love it.
And I was in a sorority in college, and there were always themed parties. And I'm a really creative person. So if you're throwing a themed party, like I'm going to go to the Goodwill, I'm going to go to Joann's, and I'm going to craft the craziest costume ever.
I love people like you because I do not do that myself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have a costume box still to this day. I have several costume boxes in my garage
That's amazing.
are just full of fun things that I just can't bring myself to get rid of. It was a couple years ago, probably 2018. I got invited to an ugly Christmas sweater party.
Okay.
And I wanted to be the most over the top, ridiculous, festive person at this Christmas party. And I swear to you, Virginia, I just had a vision of my outfit. And I was like, I want this headpiece with an elf sitting on it with presents. And I basically made this massive sculpture headpiece on my head. And I wore it to the ugly Christmas sweater party. It was really well received. And I was like, that was really fun making that festive headpiece. I'm going to make more. And so to make a long story short, I made a bunch of headpieces over the course of a week, photographed them, opened an Etsy shop, got them online. And then by the end of Christmas season, I had sold all of these wacky Christmas headpieces.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Just
I love it.
out of nowhere, just a random, this is fun. And so after that, it was okay, Christmas is over. What can I make next? And so Festive Gal just continued to grow by me adding new products. And I was always interested in products that you could wear. And so the party crown was really sort of my first product that I started Festive Gal with. And I still make party crowns to this day. And now I actually sell my party crowns, obviously direct to consumer, but I sell them to retail stores as well. And Festive Gal is now in over 800 retail stores across.
Oh my goodness. You are a boss. I love it.
Thank you. So yeah, it just started with an ugly Christmas sweater party, I guess.
That is so much fun. But you didn't start this, it was a total accident because you were a teacher, right? This wasn't, I enjoyed this my whole life. I'm going to start this. What after college, after school, what did you end up doing? And then
yeah, I was a teacher. So I was an art teacher. And I ended up teaching graphic design and photography. So I was actually a digital art teacher, which was really cool and really fun. And yeah, Festive Gal was just for fun. I call it my passion project.
And then it took over and became way more.
Took over. So my passion project ended up surpassing my teacher salary. And I just really had to assess where do I want my life to go? And the school district I was teaching at had gone on strike in 2019.
Okay.
Where we were asking for just a livable wage, really.
Yeah.
And I was waiting tables at night, teaching by day, and then also running Festive Gal. And so once Festive Gal surpassed my teacher salary, I was like, all right, being a teacher just doesn't seem sustainable right now with what they're paying us in Denver. So I decided at the end of the school year in 2019 to quit teaching and go full-time Festive Gal.
Oh my God. So
and
cool.
Then 8 months later, we all know what happened in about March of 2020.
Oh yeah. Big pivots all around.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I have quit my job. I now have a party company and I sell products for people to wear for when they have parties, and we're all in lockdown. So I ended up pivoting and selling the party crowns as something that you could wear on Zoom. And I had really fun phrases that would say 30 and quarantined or whatever. And those went just like bananas on the
That's
internet.
amazing.
And COVID was actually like really good for my business, which you would never expect for a party brand.
That's amazing. I didn't know that, but that's like good for you. It was a very hard time for my business.
I'm sure.
And I truly believe that honestly, Party Trick was really born out of that because we wanted people to get together on a day-to-day basis versus I at that time was doing these large couple hundred people per like gatherings that just couldn't happen. So I love that in a way you were also able to bring some joy and delight to people in a really sad time. And we all need that. So I'm glad you brought that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a little nervous because I was like, should I make crowns that like make a joke about this? Like that we're basically all at home. And I mean, I had a crown that said pandemic princess. And I was afraid I was going to get canceled on the internet. But then all of a sudden, the internet was like, no, we love
We
this.
love
We
this.
need like joy in our life right now. So yeah, it was very well received. But I was definitely scared to do that pivot because I was like, I don't know what people are going to think.
I think sometimes you have to put it out there. I was actually just on a meeting with my team and sometimes you want to be a little controversial. We were talking about a trend that's trending right now, and we're like, oh, we'll jump on that bandwagon. And I was like, actually, why don't we push against it? And why don't we rebel a little bit? And so sometimes when you take that leap, it could work, or yeah, there could be that fear of, am I going to get canceled? And I think taking that leap and like doing something a little risky that ended up working really well for you, that must have, I mean, it's rewarding when it works, right? It's a little scary, but it's, that's awesome. I love
Thank you.
it. Okay. So you can buy on your site. Do you still keep the Etsy shop running? You do, right?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
still do a ton of business on Etsy. Etsy's like my bread and butter, but I have my own Shopify website as
Yeah.
well. But as we all know, like when you have your own standalone website, it takes so much marketing and
Totally. To
effort
get people to
just
come there.
to get people to
Yep.
come there. Etsy is just nice because people are already looking for like birthday items or party items on Etsy.
It's so much easier, again, to get traffic in that door and then you can keep them and move them over. And then tell me how and when did you get into your first retailer and how did you decide to branch out and do that?
I didn't know anything about wholesale, the wholesale world. And I actually went to a trade show in Las Vegas because I was looking for products to buy for Festive Gal.
Yeah.
And I went to this trade show and I walked into this showroom and I saw this other brand that I recognized. And it's this really fun brand called Fun Club. And
Hmm.
I follow Fun Club on Instagram and her products are hilarious. And I walked up to her and I was like, oh my gosh, hi, I know you. I, I don't really know you. Like, I follow you on
But I
Instagram.
know of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally fangirled over her. Her name's Caitlin. And I was just like, wow, I really look up to you. I can't believe you're doing this trade show and you've got your products into retail stores. And she was just like so kind to me and was like, if you have any questions, if you want to learn about wholesale, like just let me know. Here's my email. And I was like, yes, please. I have all the questions.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she like taught me everything that she knew and took me under her wing. And then a couple months later, I was doing my own trade show. It was wild. And I don't think I would have had the guts to pull the trigger and actually try wholesale and do a trade show if I hadn't have met her. And it's one of those things that I look back on in my life where I'm so glad that I just walked up to her and said hi,
Yeah.
because if I hadn't have introduced myself to her, then I would probably not be in 800 retail stores today.
That's amazing. And I love the whole, I mean, obviously you guys have there's parties with both and she has party products as well, but it's community over competition. It's women helping women, people helping people versus just like, oh, I can't talk to you and sharing knowledge that actually helped everyone rise. A, get out there and just go up and say hi, fangirl over someone. And B, because you never know, they may come in and help. So I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
And
cool.
now, yeah, oh my God, I've done a lot of trade shows. So I feel like I've got that under my belt. I have one next month. and they're definitely a grind, but it's a really good way to get your brand out there and to meet retailers in person.
I love it. Okay, so your whole world, and I know it started because you love being festive and having this. Do you still enjoy that on your in your day-to-day life? Or is it like, okay, I'm gonna leave the glitter behind the office?
My day-to-day life, I honestly, I wear overalls to my studio
Hmm.
because I got to a point where I didn't want to think about what I needed to wear every day. So I
Yep.
found like a pair of overalls on Amazon. I own them in 5 different colors.
Love a
And
uniform.
so, like, my day to day, I'm just your normal person. But let me tell you, when there is an event, a party, themed event, like, that is when I will go all out. So, one of my favorite things that I do every year is I go to a big Kentucky Derby party.
Nice.
So, in Denver, there's this huge Derby party. It's like the biggest Derby party in the nation
Mhm.
besides Kentucky Derby itself. And I think I've been going for the last 8 years, and I always make a crazy hat, like a monstrosity on my head.
Okay,
And
you're gonna have to send us some photos and we're gonna put
I
them in
will,
here.
yeah.
Yes.
And now I'm married and I have the best husband ever. And now he comes with me to the Derby party. And this year he wore a giant hat that was my hat the prior year. So like now we're like this like power couple and these like ridiculous hats. And he almost gets more attention than I do now.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun and good for him for leaning in and doing that too. I know a lot of guys who wouldn't, and I think that's absolutely amazing.
I know. I just like, I tell him, I'm like, you are definitely the right man for me because you are willing to just be silly. And especially on Derby Day, just like
Mhm.
going hard.
What's funny, so we have people who listen all over the place, and actually the majority of our, even though both you and I are based in Colorado, I'm sure it's similar. Both of our audiences are like, we actually have more people in the coast, like more in New York and Eastern Seaboard in California than here in Colorado. People don't think that Colorado has such a big derby scene. It's hilarious, guys. I think people here love leaning into a theme outside of just like their ski bum vibes, but we don't get the opportunity to dress up and have that. And it's so fun when we do. And I love that about Colorado, about Denver. And I remember when I moved here, it shocked me so much how people here really do lean into events that you would think of more on the East Coast. I love that you bring it in your day to day. Hosting at home, what is your go-to party trick? What are you, outside of having obviously amazing headpieces and all of your stuff, what is your in your back pocket, your hack, your trick, your tip? What's your party trick? Do you have one outside of that?
I just recently started hosting our family holidays. So my
Hmm.
mom has been the one kind of responsible for being the, what do you like this? What do you call it? Like
Like the
the
matriarch of the family, the
Yeah, like the
social
matriarch.
director? Yeah.
Yeah, like the social director of the family. Like we always have Thanksgiving at her house. We always do Christmas at her house, etc. And so actually recently I decided to host Memorial Day at my house. And it was the first like big family holiday that I've ever hosted. And it was a little stressful,
I'm
but
sure.
I just did not take all the responsibility of the food. So I would say my party trick is to just delegate because for me, it's just not feasible for me personally to host a party and to do absolutely everything for it,
It's
including
not feasible for anyone to do that. It's
yeah, which is like why party trick exists.
yeah.
I have a small baby and I can't just cook a huge meal for 12 people. So I just think like the best party trick is to just try to delegate what you can. But I also learned that if you're delegating, you have to be specific about what you expect from people. Because I wanted like a really nice like barbecue meal. My husband was cooking ribs in the crock pot. And I asked my aunt to bring baked beans.
Yeah.
And I even sent her a recipe. I was like, look, I found like this really tasty looking recipe. It didn't look hard. She friggin' brought literally canned beans.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I was just, I don't know how I could have been more clear other than maybe saying, please don't bring canned beans.
Thanks.
I had to just let some of my expectations go. It wasn't like a wonderful 5-course meal. It definitely turned into like a potluck or whatever. But it was not as stressful as it probably would have been if I had decided to like do everything myself.
Yeah, I think delegation and then telling people, setting those really clear expectations, whether it's making a spreadsheet and getting detail. Obviously, like it's hard to completely dictate, but it is so helpful when you realize no one person should do everything. Also, people like to contribute. And let me add, people like to be told what they want. If I say, oh, just bring anything, I hate when people tell me that because then I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Should I bring wine? Should I bring a dip? If someone's, hey, you bring wine, you bring a dip, you bring flowers, it's so much easier. So delegate and set some clear expectations. It's like the greatest hack. So I love that. That's something to lean
Yes,
into.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. I love that. So tell me a little bit, when you think about, do you actually incorporate a lot of your products when you host at home? Okay.
There's a lot of family gatherings where people are wearing party crowns for sure. And they're all really good sports about it, even like the men.
That's awesome. Outside of the crowns, I mean, I know you have those amazing bachelorette hats that kind of kicked off a trend. Amazing. What else? What other kind of products do you have? I think I've seen some pretty cool drink stirrers as well.
Yeah. So I've started cutting a lot of like fun drink stirrers on my laser machine out of acrylic. And that's something that I definitely want to expand on for my retailers as well. Cause I think those would just, it's like a cute little gift or just something that you see in
Completely.
a store and you're like, oh, yeah, that looks so cute on my bar cart. So expanding into drink stirs. I sell a lot of different kinds of hats as well. Like I've got these cowgirl hats, I've got captain hats. And what else? I sell sashes. So for like bachelorette parties or birthdays, just I have a million and one ideas of things that I want Festive Gal to make and sell. And it's really a matter of can I focus my time and energy to get it to to make the new idea come to life?
Yeah. It's hard sometimes when there's so many ideas bouncing around. It's, okay, what can I do really well? Stay laser focused on that. But I love that you're also open and creative and like curious about what else can I do and where else can, like, if people want this, can I make it? Can I figure it out? And I remember talking with you about that of, okay, could you do this? And I think it's always nice to have that customization because people do want that a little bit.
There's so many different avenues I could go down. There's so many custom fun things that I could make for weddings. But I need to really sit down and dedicate time to that. Yeah, just I have too many ideas. That's really my problem.
What's your busiest season of I think graduation's obviously a crazy time of year for you, but do you see times of the year that are busier or less busy? Do you get just really slammed right around holidays? How does your workflow go?
I would say just with nicer weather, people have more parties. So I'm usually pretty busy in the summer months. And I sell a lot of bachelorette items as well. And people are having bachelorette parties in the summer. So April to August, like I'm usually pretty busy.
Yeah.
And then comes Christmas and New Year's. So it definitely kind of ebbs and flows. And then that's something that I'm working on is what other kinds of products and things can I launch in my business to make those slower months busier? Like if September is a slow month, that's also back to school. So maybe I need to launch more back to school products to make up for the lack of parties that are being thrown. So I'm always trying to pay attention to the trends and the ebbs and flows of the seasons and figure out how I can fill in the gaps in my business.
There's always going to be those ebbs and flows. What do you think about when you think about parties, obviously, and like being and celebrating? Is there anything you don't like? What do you not like doing when it comes to the party space? Not your business, but just generally speaking. Like, I don't like cooking, right? So I order in a ton. I know we talked about delegation of that food, but what do you think about entertaining? Is there any big pain point that's not fun for you?
That's a good question.
I'm going to be so jealous if you are like, nope, this is easy. It comes from the back of my hand and hosting's fun
I
across the
would say
board.
like cleaning. Like every
Yeah.
time I have a party, I always all of a sudden decide that my house needs to be deep cleaned.
Yeah.
So, and probably it doesn't, but it makes me just be like laser focused on any kind of dirt or something that's unorganized in my house. I would say I don't like the pressure of having a perfectly clean, organized house in order to have a party. And I know that like most people probably don't care. And that's really like my own personal standard, I guess. And it depends on who's coming over or whatever. But I always feel the need to do like a deep clean before I host any kind of party.
I think we all feel that, and it's ridiculous that we all do because we never look at it and see it at someone else's house, but we 100% do it at our own. I mean, I think
Yeah.
about that all the time. I'm like, oh my God, there's like a water ring on my, no one realizes at
I
all.
almost go into like full on, should I just like completely redo the guest bathroom? Maybe it's time.
It's a great way to like spring clean the house. Just to, at any point, be like, all right, I'm inviting friends over. Let's reorganize like my mudroom because no one's actually going into it. So yeah, I love it. So how has your world shifted just like professionally since you've had your son? He is like 9 months ish right now when we're recording. But how has it changed? Like, how have you found motherhood and running your business? I have two. I'm a single mom and it's really shifted mine, but I'm curious, like, how has it changed yours?
I was really nervous to finally pull the trigger and try to have a baby because who is going to run my business if I'm out on maternity leave? And so I was really strategic actually. And like the 9 months where I was like pregnant, I actually worked with a business coach to just make
Good.
sure that my business was stable and that I had the right employees and the right roles and everybody knew what to do so that I could take a solid maternity leave, which was really awesome. And I'm like really proud of that. Like I literally was MIA for 8 weeks. I was
Wow.
like,
I'm so
don't call me,
proud.
don't
Oh,
ask me to do anything unless like the warehouse is burning down. And it worked perfectly. Everybody was able to do their job, the business kept running, and I was able to have this really special time with my family. And so now it's great because all of those, I guess, like stabilization techniques that I implemented in my business so that I could go on maternity leave, I'm still like using those now. I'm here having like doing this podcast interview with you today. I'm not in my warehouse because my employees are running the show and everybody is trained properly. So having a baby was actually really good for my business because to it forced me to get things off of my plate and give responsibility to other people. Because
yeah.
if you're stuck in the business doing the day to day, then you can't grow the business.
I remember my father once told me, Virginia, your business should be able to run completely without you. Otherwise, it's really not a business. You haven't set up those firm like practices, the systems, the things that are going to keep it going. If you can't step away, that's not a sign of a healthy business. So, what an amazing like catalyst to getting into a really strong place to have the business that you do now. And that's only going to set you up also for the ability to run it longer without burnout. But I think it takes a while to get to that point for so many businesses, but kudos to you. That's impressive.
Thank you. Before I had employees, like I remember one time I had the flu and I was like so nauseated. And I remember like getting out of bed being like, I have to go downstairs and ship these orders. Like the orders have to go out. And I just remember like still having to work and still having to box up orders and ship them, even though I was like so sick. And so now, obviously, like I don't have to do that. And if an employee's sick, I'm like, stay home. But yeah, it's not a good business if you can't take a day off or if you get in a car accident and you can't work and like the business can't function without you, like it's gonna go out of business really fast. And
Yeah.
sometimes I ask myself, if I was hit by a bus,
What
what
would
would
happen?
happen? Who would be responsible for what? Do they know where all of my passwords are? Do they know how to reorder shipping supplies? All of that.
I think that is such an amazing and very few people, that sounds funny, in the event space think that way. I hate saying that. And it's not to cut anyone short, but I think in general, there's so many creatives that go just into events, but they don't think about the health of the business on top of it. So I think about the fun and the pretty and the creative of this, that, and the other, but being able to create a healthy business that's sustainable where if something were to happen, I used to, when I was producing large scale weddings, we did a handful of these meetings that had very specific checklists. That was like, if one of us were in an accident, are we okay? And that stemmed from not actually when I had kids, but I had an emergency appendectomy the morning of a wedding.
Oh,
And
oh my
I
gosh.
went into the ER and I was like, you have 2 hours to figure this out and I've got to go. And the doctor was like, yeah, that's not going to happen, Virginia. And I'm like, someone's getting married. I have to leave. They're like, yeah, also your appendix is about to burst.
Oh my gosh.
And I reamed out. I was like 24. And it's actually, I saw that doc a few years later and I've been so embarrassed ever since. And again, like small town living, you run into people all the time. I finally went up and I apologized for my behavior. She obviously had no recollection. She's like, that's
Yeah.
really sweet of you. I get yelled at all day, every day. But point being is that taught me that lesson really early in my business that
Wow.
you want to think and plan for those things. And now that didn't happen to me. Like when I had my babies at all, I was working in the hospital and I was at a wedding like a couple of days later. It was my decision to do that based on just kind of execution versus of a large scale live event versus doing something more like what you're doing or more what I'm doing now, for instance. But it really changed my career trajectory. And I would urge anyone who's like either an entrepreneur listening or just even thinking about setting up your life, put those plans into place. Set yourself up for success so that the people around you are set up for success because it'll ultimately make your life that much more enjoyable too. For sure. Yeah.
That's so funny. Were you like, I need 2 hours before you can go into surgery? Is that what kind of you said to the
Oh,
doctor?
no, I told her I had to be walking out the door in 2 hours, that she had to fix me in 2 hours.
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh.
I walked in and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong, but you have 2 hours to fix this and get me out the door.
That is so funny. Oh
Yeah,
man.
it
Wait,
was.
so but what happened? Like obviously didn't go to the wedding.
Oh God, no. I ended up like having appendix removed, then I was stuck, and then I had a horrible bacterial infection. Like I was out for a week straight at that point. It
Oh,
was not good.
oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did not
that's
have like a good experience around that one. It's funny. Like I had both my kids. Well, my daughter was born in the middle of wedding season. And I was at a wedding 3 days later,
oh
like
man.
post C-section, barely
Oh,
standing up. But you know what? I couldn't do that after the appendectomy. I think kids change you a lot. But in terms of also, you don't feel the pain in the same way as I did when I was in my early 20s when that one happened. So yeah, kind of
that's
funny.
crazy.
Is your team primarily here? I know you have your warehouse here in Colorado, but do you have remote employees or do you have employees is everyone based here?
I dabbled a little bit with remote employees. Like I've had a VA before, I've had a social media manager who was remote, etc. But everybody who works for me is here, like local to Denver. And even as I think about the culture of Festive Gal and what I want it to be like working for me, I think moving forward, I still want to continue to hire people that I can have a relationship with in person. So I'm actually hoping to hire like a social media manager soon, a new one, and a graphic designer soon as well. And while those will still be like probably pretty remote, I still want them to be able to come into the Sparkle studio and meet me in person and have a brainstorm session in person just because I like having that connection.
I do too. I think that's what it's about, right? In-person connection is the most meaningful thing. And Zoom and virtual meetings have opened up so many doors, but at the same point, nothing better than putting those screens and devices away and just truly engaging one-on-one and just even not having that little lag with a meeting and actually having people around a table together compared to the big group Zoom meetings. It's amazing. So you're so lucky to have everyone here. I love that for you.
Yeah, I have such a good team. My team is so good right now that like I said, I don't even have to be at my warehouse and I've been able to work from home with my baby or go to a co-working space to get stuff done. So the machine is definitely very well oiled right now and it's running itself, which is giving me a lot of free time to do more like product development and more marketing and just more like forward thinking, because
That's
April and May were just so crazy with graduation season that I didn't do anything to grow the business like in April and May, because I was just
Yeah.
I was stuck in the business, like making and shipping orders.
Kevlyn, where can people find you? We will put some notes in the show notes below in terms of websites, but how can we support you? Where can we find you and what's new and what's coming up for you?
All right. You can find me on the internet as Festive Gal. So my Instagram is just like festive with a dot, festive.gal. And I'm on TikTok, but I'm like not doing the best job being active on TikTok.
Okay. It's hard. It's hard to do it all.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully that'll improve, but you can find me on TikTok if you want to. And then my website is just festivegal.com. You can find me on Etsy. My shop is called Festive Gal. And what is coming up is I am going to be launching really fun, like personalized Christmas ornaments this season that I'm working
Cool.
on. So Christmas ornaments are in the works. Lots more like drinkware, drink stirrers, custom like laser engraved cups and tumblers and water bottles. I've got just a lot of things in the queue, and I
That
just
is so
need.
much fun. We can like continuously then follow along and see product launch and all of these fun new additions. Because again, the novelty of having something new and exciting is always good and enjoyable.
I'm excited for the next like the rest of 2023. I've got a lot of really fun ideas.
Good. I cannot wait to see. So check out Kevlyn, Festive Gal. Check out the show notes. You'll see all the goodies. And I cannot wait to see what you come up with next. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.